Hey guys, hope you're all having a great day. So in today's video, you can see that we have been working in the front corner of my mom's house, right in front of where these electrical boxes are. Now, just wanted to mention quick, there are not telephone poles in our neighborhood. We have everything underground, which is awesome because it helps us not lose power so often, but it does cause for there to be a couple of boxes in our yard. So we're just trying to cover these up as best as possible. So here you can see the final product. There were a couple of plants that were already here. I also took a few out, which I will explain in a little bit, and you can see everything that we put in. So I'm just going to run down the list of each plant that I used and give you all the information in terms of sun requirements, zones, size, all that good stuff. So starting off with this first plant in the back here, this is an incredible hydrangea. It's an improved variety of the Annabelle, and it has these gorgeous white flowers. Now these flowers actually can get to the size of basketballs if you give it enough sun, but this plant as a whole is going to get about 4 to 5 feet tall, 5 to 6 feet wide, and my hope was that it was going to cover up these boxes as best as possible without impeding on them too much. And worst case, if the electrical company has to come by and do anything with them, if a branch snaps or if they have to cut it at all, it'll regrow the next season, and I don't need to worry about it forfeiting any buds for the next season. What's also really awesome about these hydrangeas is they start blooming probably around the beginning of July, I would say, here in New England, and they will hold on to those blooms. They'll fade to kind of like a limey green color, and they'll hold on to the plant really until the winter. So you even get some winter interest with this plant. And you can see I don't really have anything evergreen here, so that was part of the reason why I chose this hydrangea. Now in front of this hydrangea are 2 Miss Molly butterfly bushes. You could see there's one here that doesn't look too bad, and then this one is just kind of like a stick that came up. I planted these last fall. We had a couple of really cold nights and it killed these all the way back to the ground. So they did come back this year. A lot of people's butterfly bushes around here didn't come back. But the other issue too is that they're all eaten up, like totally eaten up by the leaves. So I ended up putting some plant tone around the base of these, and then I used the rose flower care from Bonide, which will help any other insects from eating these leaves. In front of the 2 butterfly bushes is what's called a pink muley grass. This one is hardy in zones 5 through 9, and this one is going to get about 24 to 36 inches tall and wide, so not much bigger than it is now, maybe just a little bit fuller in the end. But the top of these kind of plumes, if that's what you want to call them, it's a very light and airy grass. These are going to turn pink throughout the rest of the season. You can see we kind of have a pink theme going on here, lots of pinks and purples. I'm going to leave the grass up for the winter time, so although it's not an evergreen, it will provide some sort of winter interest on top of that hydrangea when everything else is just kind of sticks. In front of that are 2 Starship Rose Lobelia. Now these did mention part sun, and this is more of a full sun situation, but I think they're going to do pretty well where they are. These are nice because they have more of a bold texture as compared to the grass and the butterfly bush. They have a little bit more of a shorter, compact look to them. They're only going to get about 24 inches tall and about 14 inches wide, so they'll kind of fill up this space nicely, and you can see they do have a very bright pink color. They're also kind of a mid-season bloomer, like mid to late summer, so they're just starting to bloom up now. This one is actually just starting. There's only one little bloom on that one, and these will kind of fill up this area nicely, but there's still going to be a little space to put some plants here. Now this next pairing of plants is a little more difficult to see, but there's one over here and then one over there. And this phlox is called Olympus. This is where we get some interest without it just being in the flowers. This variety, as you can see, is beautifully variegated with the green, with kind of a yellowy margin, and then the newer foliage actually has like a purplish pink tinge to it. Now these are going to get quite big, about 30 to 36 inches tall and about 18 to 24 inches wide, so they're really going to fill up this spot, especially because that hydrangea is going to get 5 to 6 feet wide. So it'll start to cover this side a little bit and fill up this whole front area. I had been eyeing these plants at the garden center, and these were the last 2 that were left for the season, so I figured, you know what, I got to pick them up and I got to put them in the ground. But I don't think they're going to bloom this season. I think they're going to bloom next season. But on the tag, it says that they're very long blooming. They'll bloom from late spring to late summer. So while a lot of these plants that I did put in this bed are going to bloom more kind of mid to late season, that will provide a little bit more of an earlier spring interest after the tulips are done blooming. The flowers say that they get kind of a pink and white look, but it looks like there's a little bit of purple mixed in as well. So that's where we get a little bit more of the purple that's going to tie in the hydrangea with the next plant, which is a sedum. These last three plants here are a variety of sedum called Conga Line. So I have these three right here that are in the front. They only get about 16 to 20 inches tall and about 16 inches wide. So if anything, they'll just grace the sidewalk right over here, but they'll fill in this space nicely, and they do kind of provide a little bit of structure for the rest of the plants here. You can see that they are just starting to bud up for the rest of the season. Sedum are a late summer to early fall bloomer, but once they start budding up, they'll kind of hold on to those buds and flowers until a frost. Now, I was reading the tag on this sedum, and it does sound pretty cool what happens to it. So it does mention that green and purple summer foliage shifts to burgundy as plants bloom in shades of peach, coral, and cream. So that's going to add a little bit of lighter color later on in the season. And I think that's one of these plants that's going to help tie in some of those warmer tones with some of those cooler tones as well. The last thing I wanted to mention about the sedum is that I have experimented with sedum, and they seem to do pretty well under more of a salty, sandy kind of situation. So my goal is that those were going to be in the front, so that way when we shovel snow and there's kind of that overspray in the wintertime from the road, that those plants can tolerate it more so than the other stuff that's there. I also forgot to mention that there actually were 3 echinacea right here, so let me show you what I did with them. Also, Kamut is here watching me. Yes, he likes his pets. He's not my cat, but he does like going into our yard. So here are the 3 echinacea that I have. They're called Salmon Double. I got them from Home Depot last fall. They came out beautifully, but you can see that they're all chewed up. There's a whole bunch of leaves that have been eaten, and even the flower petals on these, a lot of them have started to get eaten up. The biggest issue that everybody in our area has been struggling with is rabbits, and basically them eating just about anything. So these echinacea that I planted last fall, they weren't touched last fall. They were totally fine. This year, they've been eaten up pretty much since they've started growing, and I figured instead of me trying to put plants around them and keeping them in that spot, I figured I'll just dig them up, I'll keep them over here for now, get them to kind of grow on a little bit, and then maybe find somewhere where the rabbits haven't really gone. I'm not exactly sure what my plan is for this for right now, but I figured let me just dig them up. I'll see if there's a different spot I want to put them in the future, and only put in stuff that is rabbit resistant. So the sedum is definitely rabbit resistant. The cardinal flower also mentioned on the tag that it was rabbit resistant. They don't eat grass. They really don't eat hydrangeas as well. The only thing I'm a little iffy on is that Phlox paniculata, but I did do some research online, and I think Phlox is generally pretty rabbit resistant. So we'll see how all of that does. But for now on, I'm only really putting stuff that is rabbit resistant in my garden, and those should all be pretty good choices. So I will actually be able to test a real world result of what's going to happen with all of these, but echinacea are definitely not rabbit resistant. So we'll see what happens with those. So at this point, I just watered everything in. We're just going to water everything daily for the next few weeks or so, and then we'll push back a little bit on watering as it starts to get cooler throughout the rest of the season. But these plants are going to develop in well, and I'm very excited to see when they really start to fill in next year. Especially the butterfly bushes, I'm hoping we have a little bit more mild of a winter, so those will come back thicker and stronger next season. But we're just going to see how they do. My kind of goal for these butterfly bushes, or my idea in my head, was they're probably not going to come back super great every single year just because we're in a colder climate. So if anything, I'm treating them more as a perennial, and if they grow back from the ground every year, it's no big deal. We've got other plants that are going to fill in. All right, besides that, any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the comment section down below. I hope you guys liked this video, and I will see you in the next one.